In 1986, I rocked up at the Adelaide Writers' Week and realised that there was tons of poets there and there were no venues for them to read at. They weren't in the program. So I borrowed a video camera and asked people just to give me a poem or two, and this is the result.
I'm Rudi Krausmann. I live in Sydney. I'm going to read a prose piece from a play called The Perfection, the Comedy of Progress. The poet. A had, even before he left school, what he considered a marvelous, unique aim. His aim was to write a perfect poem. This, unfortunately, led not only to the alienation of his male colleagues, but also to the distancing of his female acquaintances. Where A lived, to write poetry had always been considered ridiculous. To write the perfect poem, more or less insane. Soon A had not only lost his friends, but was hardly able to date a girl. Yet A was determined to have a definite aim, when everybody else knew hardly what he was doing, made him stick to his decision. What he had not realized was the difficulty, if not the impossibility, of his intention. How long would it take him to write a poem of average quality, let's say, and having once achieved that, how much longer would it still take to write the perfect poem? Could it be done by work, method, discipline, and knowledge alone, or was genius a necessary attribute? What was genius? Hard work or a gift of the gods? Maybe both. By the time A's thoughts arose, it was already too late. Not only had he found, because of his poetic preoccupations, that he was unsuitable for a job, but also for marriage. In other words, A was unemployable and incompatible. Also A's parents, sympathetic at first with perhaps having a son with higher aims, could not understand nor support him any longer. A had to survive on the dole, alone and alienated from the rest of the world. When A was 30, he was thin and sickly, at 40, undernourished and mostly bedridden. But then A had read most of the significant poets of the past and the present, including the most significant critics of the past and present. None of them had either discovered or written the perfect poem. When A was 50, he had already written 1,000 poems, probably superior to the poems of his contemporaries, but far from perfect. When A was 50, he finally was ready to write the perfect poem. Poetry of whatever period, of whatever form, had nothing to give him anymore. The most ambitious poetry of his time he read like this newspaper. The most acclaimed poets of the past bored him. Poetry reviews or poetics in the fashionable literary periodicals were chit-chat to him. In short, A was ready. He was convinced that within the next 10 years he could write the perfect poem. To what purpose? First, to fulfill his adolescent dream, his marvelous, unique aim, as he called it, and secondly, to make an end of poetry altogether. Once the perfect poem is written, no more poetry can be written. Perfection attained annihilates imperfection. Every poem before or after would consequently be superfluous. At 58, A was feeling fine. The perfect poem was already drawing to its close. In 1 year it would be finished, and the last year he would reserve for correction. It was by chance that he came across a thought by Robert Graves, which was published in an interview Graves gave on his 80th birthday. Graves had stated, "When the perfect poem is written, the world will end it." This poetic truth discouraged A to such a degree that 3 days later he committed suicide. As a result, the perfect poem was never written.
Good on you.
Introduction to a series of poems. All right.
Yeah. Okay, you can sit down if you like. Just for a change, yeah, I can sit down too, which is good. Best sound. That's good.
See through my glasses?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, I'm Clive Smythe. I live in Melbourne, and I've got a couple of poems for you. The first one's dedicated to John Denver, a great hero of mine, and I'm wearing his sort of kind of shirt. And it's called Hippie Movies Seem to Always Make Me Cry. At 2:05 a.m, the late, lots of beach scenes, surfboard heads buried in the sand, hard rock and marshmallow politics. The ugly cop comes up squeaky clean when the kids expose a real con. A small dose of drugs, an aspiring, failing, failed folk rock singer, and the animus woman, blonde, long-haired with a headband and a handbag full of motherly advice for the aspiring, failing, failed folk rock singer who can't cope with her because he's going through a terrible battle with the results of a car accident, a terminal disease, alcoholism, drugs, or being an aspiring, failing, failed folk rock singer. In the break, the ad says, every day, 10 Australians decide life isn't worth living. And this is a character I saw at the Adelaide Festival at the Fringe Club. Mr. Cover Version. Mr. Cover Version lives in the shade, wall to wall, black on black, the suit, a send-up of a send-up of itself, a many-layered gag. Narrow-waisted, op-shop, tailor-made, for the down-at-heel, cuffs-turned-up artists. Mr. Cover Version lives in the shade, the insides of terraces and disused custard factories with that perfect colour achieved only by corpses and punks. Mr. Cover Version lives in the shades, wrap-around, horn-rimmed, mirror-reflective. He wants to be noticed, not seen. Doesn't want to show. He wants a late show of his own to make a name in rock and roll cabaret, but the audience so cool, he can't tell whether to buy in or sell out. Mr. Cover Version lives in the shade of someone else's lyrics. He delivers with the cynic's ease.
Very nice.
Good. Yeah, thank you. Lovely.
Thank you.
Action.
My name's Rory Harris. I live in Melbourne. This poem, The Transportee's Dormitory, is the result of a long love affair with the city of Sydney. A love affair that was characterised with a lot of hate. And finally I visited the Hyde Park barracks, and I, after 7 years of living in Sydney, began to understand the city and finally to accept it and to love it. It's called The Transportee's Dormitory. An arrowed shirt costs only $35. Try a hammock, invite the signs. Imagine yourself a convict. Under a lucid, enlightened state, the public may always participate. 4-year-olds play noisily now in the old convict dormitory. This barrack was a prison and a bedlam. Their squeals ring through the room's preserved, helpless dimensions. Then circulate by the trip gun and cat with the same dry-eyed interest. Nothing upsets. You don't know why it so sharply cries up that people walk freely about St. James in rayon, silk and poplin, in pastel blouses and candy stripes, pleated cotton, twilled wool suits and denim, that in bright colours office workers are jogging. Our faculties have said restore to a prison. We walk in perfect safety since the present is our asylum and peer through audio-visual display as far as bewildered counterparts diminutive at each pitifully narrow doorway. Those springtime drums in vividest day under jacarandas where anyone on earth may walk through purple. These now as figures for themselves imply for us our narratives. Then the staff go home to revel or jazz. These 30 hammocks are left behind to moonlight. It studies them, inert sacks, through Greenway's windows. And anywhere in the flight path, for weeks afterward, poor transportee, those are our aircraft overhead, our jumbos. A statement is made in the official report. The public would be horrified if verisimilitudes were displayed. Now why should it matter?
Let Esau eat today as if there wasn't a tomorrow. His appetites are canker fret and sorrow. If any hauteur about convict blood should surface still in a quarterly, it means Adam's nationality. Driven out, however King George III as a cherub may rise in the gorge. Archaeology, patient at the foundations, finds heirlooms, novels, Bibles, scripture portions, carried lower and lower by rats into dark micro-environments which favoured preservation. Come now, neither idealisation nor contempt. To resettle was difficult. Eden gave way to the world, a cult where arts are always falling over to show you that things, however tohu, are not bohu. Each prisoner in the human heart extolled his cell and overslept, or saw all-night piecemeal desolation, or tried to call out and found interdiction, or longed for love, but met her anyway, and found in even springtime's wake dismay.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, what a pleasure to hear that.
Now, well,
Can you have an audience in this fucking business here? Right?
yeah,
You have an audience.
You
Right,
can,
bravo.
a qualified audience, thank you. And this poem is called The Boatman, and it's a love poem. And it has an epigraph from a very old Irish song called Carrick Fergus, a song with a melody I think 500 years old. The epigraph reads, I wish I knew some handsome boatman who would carry me over, my love and I. Like peace, you were my friend, dancing the night out, raving over a novel, and still, if I choose, I can bring your good eyes before me. Just at sunset, 2 flights up, lit by which as the dazzling west cast apricot flames around us. Consider then the poems I wrote you, confetti. Snowfall on a cardboard hill that says pizza in yellow bin which men remove, with green dump truck that has air brakes at dawn. What were they anyway if not milk? If not the sea, not fields of wheat, if not the chains of a little light distributed under ambiguous stars, song of death, money at taxi door, dogs baying into the universe, because I was happy to eat with you, bread and lentil. That was why I got rid of them, for the sake of your freedom, though fractured and torn, they speak even as they are born. But add this news, I have found new hope. A river not lethal that one may cross. You yourself at times caused me to wonder about love's monarch on days we hung around the dock. Now in the autumn a telephone somewhere ringing. All day petals have fallen one by one onto windscreens. Is your light on? Have you met very man? And are you up late tonight in your one light reading? Hope through the blue night, tapping the yellow window. The insufficient nurtures the ignoble. Only truth can gather the true in an age when men are altogether calm. I have found in overlooked texts and forgotten stanzas, in the storeroom where God keeps dark furniture, a rod that has swallowed up the deadly vision, a budded rod, green forever. Thank you.
I'd like to actually say something to you about the wind. The wind comes to us by virtue of the great South Horn, and it wheels around the rest of the world and it comes toward us. It gives us our green weather. We live, we try as hard as possible to make some sense of all this stuff. But the wind is ever. The wind is the thing that gives us our song, that gives us our heart. It is the gypsy in all of us, that wind. It is the place that comes to every heart. That's just about the wind, you understand. Incidentally, I come from Australia. No place in particular. Really. What do you mean with the parts? What's that? Shelton Lea, yeah, there we are. It carries on the wind, Shelton Lea. Anyway, thank you kindly. I'll read you a poem. Well, here we are again. Whatever happened to Rosie? And I adore this poem. It's one of my favourite poems in the world. Whatever happened to Rosie? And it comes from a magazine here that's called Overland. And they gave this kind of paper where you had to get up and you had to say, what happened to this girl who was languidly throwing chunks of coal at random, some of which landed on target, and was completely and happily blotto in the blazing fire. The rest is silence. We never heard what happened to Rosie. Well, I'm about to tell you what happened to Rosie. This is what happened to Rosie. Down from Turak, hot weeks chain, down to Princess Highway to Virgin Rosie came, and the band played through Berwick and Pakenham, Truan and Warrigal perched precariously on the back of their truck. And the miners all yelled and cavorted, there's a new madam in town. And the words sped like grass by that a good fuck will be had for £1. She finally settled in Morwell, fixed up the house for her girls, dressed them in fine lace and baubles, put velvet curtains on windows, and erotically papered the walls. Then she opened her doors to the hard men who came down in the open cut. They'd come in with smiles on their faces, their voices covered with black dust. Their arms poking like seedlings, and their voices were gravelled and rough. And the still virgin Rosie would near swoon at the smell. Wow, but is this a camera I see before my delicate eye? Has it got the same kind of thing that I've got in it, or what? I don't know. Can I finish my poem or what? Look in the camera, he says. There's a director here, folks. I'm trying as hard as I possibly can. I'm getting asked to look in the eye of a damn thing. And it's difficult to look anything in the eye. Hiya. And the still virgin Rosie would near swoon at the smell. For unlike Prometheus, it wasn't the flame that aroused her, it was the cold. So late, when all the girls had done, the dark night would beckon her deep soul, and she would wander the fields, feel the brute throbbings of the ancient seams beneath her seat. And she would dream of lying there and dying, sinking through the brief compost of the soil, bonding with her beloved coal, which finally is what she did. I can tell you this other thing here. I can speak to the eye. I can speak. It goes out of focus. If it goes out of focus, in and out of focus, it's on the arm. I'll tell you this other thing. Ezra Pound said one day that there are the unkillable infants of the very poor, and I tend to agree with him. And I am personally from Australia, courtesy to you, one of the unkillable infants of the very poor. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay. I'm Kevin Pearson, and I'm from Adelaide. I've recently edited a book of South Australian poetry called The Orange Tree. I shall read some of my own poems that are in that book. The first is called Self-Portrait from Objects in a Room and has 5 sections. Self-Portrait from Objects in a Room. 1. A Chinese jewel box. The small octagonal lacquered carved box glints in the light like Jack Frost's eye. The painted poppies beneath a glaze are bright intaglio suns, asaris like embers that walk a field of green, or a medieval walled garden, a miniaturist's vision specific fruit upon the orange tree today. 2. A cat twice. Think of the act of suddenness. A plain white ledge in a room, then a cat on a plain white ledge. Think of the problem of absence. A cat on a plain white ledge, just the plain white ledge in a room. This absence gives suddenness edge on a ledge greyed with dust the white jagged coin prints of her paws. 3. Banksia. If the single protuberant Banksia flower in the emu eggshell vase steams like jungle in the afternoon, now the heat has come, how will the big green saucer-shaped leaves of nasturtium not float past my mouth tonight like pudenda, like Patanai in a dream? 4. A Coolerman. A Coolerman in desuetude leans an ornament on a shelf. 5. A cigarette paper. Small and frail as a cowrie shell and twisted in discard, a cigarette paper just holds to the edge of a wicker wastebasket, waiting a breath for its fall. It's like waiting a breath for your fall, but at times the sheer diagonal flight of a bird across the upper rectilinear blue of your window pane. Another poem called Fragment of Autobiography. It's in fact from the autobiography of Benvenuto Cellini, the 15th century jeweler. Fragment of autobiography. I, Benvenuto Cellini, at about this time, discovered some vases, these ancient urns, and in these ancient urns choked full with ashes, rings, old iron rings inlaid with gold, and in the depth of gold, at a certain point, a tiny shell, the sound and wash of the sea. I consulted experts, and they told me the rings lore. Those who wanted a full equanimity wore them anew, the stillness of forest tops after the wind, or the rock on the seabed that sand ribs past, no matter what wild accidents befall. Narcotic, my friend. My friends asked me to design them some, but mine were of well-tempered steel, finely engraved and inlaid with gold, and, at a certain point, a tiny shell. They were of surpassing beauty. I had 40 crowns for merely the work I put into them. And finally, a small poem called Seashell, which is translated from the Spanish of Federico Garcia Lorca. Seashell. They've brought me a seashell. Inside it sings a map of the sea. My heart fills up with water, with smallish fish of shade and silver. They've brought me a seashell.
Loud applause all around. Loud applause all around.
Have to go to this book.
Okay, down.
This is about prostitution, and it's about a woman who was doing it, which was me actually, and just how she feels. So much bullshit written about it, and this I feel is really truthful and honest. She's sitting slumped, back curved into velvet soft cushy cush sofa, lipstick so red tasting like chemical plastic. The women around her nodding off or violently puffing on gold label cigarettes. The windows are shut. The air stinks of petrol bomb and car fumes. The street outside is roaring and drilling with the sounds of machine. The TV rumbles over it all. Michael Jackson at midnight swinging his hips. Such a fine line of movement. She can feel his energy and smells the stomach-turning odour of cherry ripe beside her. The boss sits, back straight at a pink desk where the boys enter in drunken celebration. Whiskey fills the tiny room. Each girl wakes up and sits up and turns it on with a McLean's want a blowjob smile. She wins this time, leading him by his arm. First touch of his hand tingling through bent fingers, spine chilled in anticipation. Up the stairs in a flash,
The gaudy mauve and red walls, mirrors reflecting her painted face, pink flamingos arched in elegance, tacky statues and shell ashtrays, black and white baby powder, condoms, greasy rubber on scaly skin, the smell of cum that drips from every crack in the wall. Tina Turner is singing, Private Dancer. She sings with love to herself as he loses his fear and excitement. Then the shower, the cheap stockings back on. Her smile is different now, quick and patient. See you later and thanks very much.
Yeah. Great. Say your name actually when you.
My name's Ingie.
Right.
Can I read one more?
No.
Okay. Oh, nervous. The stink of a cigarette just lit early after waking. The dream space of my sleepful nights. Will the dogs smell me as I run home through the difficult streets? Ever dancing. Rumbling walls of the maze of patriarchy. I'm sick of its stink, its postures, its lies. Well, it was grey with big raindrops. The streets swished and tyres of trucks ravaged our ears. When the train came in, I felt its wind, turbulent, twist my peaceful countenance. The hennaed and permed ladies of Melbourne clutched their skirts. Rebellious dancers, sadly with eyes down to the ground, acne and lipstick cracks in the mask. Well, I'm watching it all in a kind of amused stream of consciousness, asking many questions. That's it.
I don't know about life. I have not lived it close to the edge to distinguish it from death by the contrasts walking that line can bring. I have not felt the needles surge, just the prick in others' tails that makes me hurt for what they put themselves through. I have not felt the pangs of hunger, the emptiness of a stomach constantly longing for some brief nourishment. Only wondered at friends and students of this life who had no money for food while getting drunk to empty their guts every night and tell tales round the morning table of dry reaching in cabs or alleyways. Some strange pleasure in the doubling in pain. I have not felt the bitter cold when no money was available to reconnect the gas, nor even an extra moth-eaten op-shop blanket to toss across bare blue legs, goosebumped and shivering, waiting for the season's turn to make me warm again. I have not walked the streets at night to find an open door and hall where some refuge could be found to shelter me from the dark's foreboding, nor slept in parks, wrapped in newspapers drawn from the day's rubbish, left by businessmen at lunch as their only form of charity, tax deductions too meagre to worry about. I have not felt the despair of not knowing where to go, to find someone to talk to just to keep from loneliness, or the conversations that start in heads unused to communication with others who have no idea what you really mean to say, really need, instead of hand-me-outs, smiles, and lessons of God. I don't know about life, but I've been told by the look in the eyes of derelicts, their humble shuffles but arrogant stares, by their worn-out shoes that they take off and set in the sun to dry, as they find a place to lie on the grass and dream. But no, they move them to brighter sun, then find themselves a bit of shade, only to rearrange again as soon as they lay their heads down, their wandering never leaving them alone, to find a home to rest a while, always a disturbance to keep them balancing on that fine line. And I've been told by the emptied bins surrounded by takeaway trash that's no good to anyone, of the misappropriation of charity, the unwillingness to even give away what we don't need for fear someone else's use of it may be better than ours, may make them strong. And I've been told by the broken windows and the telltale wind in abandoned houses where ghosts have moved in, to leave only the barest trace in the dust to show where they've slept among the darkest of dreams. I've been told by scavenger seagulls pouring across lunchtime crowds who ignore the tin shakers for aid to Africa and brush them aside with their "gave at the office" line. I have been told by papers, magazines and books of those who have died before their time, in their prime, singing blues and wielding guitars, and told in song and rhyme how others believe in that line as the one you have to live on, desperately die on to remain alive, to become a legend in your own time. But I guess I'm not going to find fame because I don't know about life.
Yeah, it's a lovely poem.
What was this?
Audience reaction. Audience reaction.
This one's about when the caribou were flooded out in Canada about 18 months or so ago now. Caribou, freely following the season's pull, you step in the footsteps of millennia, gracefully floating over the paths of migration to the warmer south of the winter, hardly stopping to feed for your longest survival. Caribou, what flood has caught you, almost wiped you out, but left only a few young to gape in shock at thousands of carcasses bereft of floating spirit now. Far from man you roamed, these long, untamed hands reach far, deep into your souls. He will conquer all, wages wars he doesn't even know, and denies fault, denies power when he knows he is the failure. Caribou, spring forth again, drawn by sun and moon, your spirit will reflect in them long after man's failures have proved his own doom. When you run, your feet spring from the grass like stones skimming the stillness of the lake. Who knows where you have been?
Yeah. Good.
Let's go ahead.
I'm Liz Hall. This is called One Day in the Month. Barefoot, sloshing with chamomile, bald-faced in the too hot sun, taking the path, avoiding lusty schoolboys on bikes. Two fat women, one old, one young, discuss where the money for Ethiopia goes, in the milk bar, where everything is overpriced. Home, cigarettes for nerves welded tightly in hand, cats sleep on kitchen benches, tired of throwing them off. Phil Collins can feel it in the air tonight, this must be love. The crashing drum desire sleeps on, varnished hard and brown. And I am old, barren as Nullarbor, I grow only dry, grey scrubbing brush, Ajax in shower to fight backache and temperament. Think of fighting with vacuum cleaner, decide better to rest. Trucks roar through me without even noticing. Smelly, sloppy, bloated, blood-stained, I'm uglier than harpies. Their hairy, warty personality sprouts fetid from my skin. I wouldn't come near me if I were you. Conversations with two analysts. Yes, I admit it, I block it out. Why do you do that? Dunno, maybe it feels better. His name is Norman and he feeds my Electra complex with his kind eyes and wryly smiling face. Strong handshake though, and gentle paunch over his waistline. Too many loving home-cooked dinners. He invites trust like a well-worn teddy bear. Why do you want to feel better? Why does he think? I don't like feeling bad. But why? Because it hurts. Does it? It is our destiny, this pain, and my self-analysis brings all to life again, not only in the now, but back in time. I remember being beaten as a child. They like that one. Gives them a chance to dissect history, reconstruct the trauma dim in memory. Why don't we try catharsis? I look out the window. I wonder, do I want this? What do I want? Norman, tell me what I want. Drive home to a party. Feel better soon. Ah, Norman, if you only knew. I want. Give me an antidote to pain. I want. Give me a drink and another. Thanks, brother. My sanity-saving dream dealer stumbling out of the taxi. Hi, sweetie, come inside. We'll both feel better. Here's the mirror, banknote and blade. 50s are classiest, but I only have a 10. I want. White-light glass, stinging asbestos, spreading marshmallow across my face, block sinuses. I want. Come here, midnight lover, and soothe my head. Wish it wasn't almost morning, day dawning, could handle 10 more hours of night to do it right. Are you okay? Want one of these? No. Don't need, don't hurt, don't cry. An antidote for all. Too happy, too sad, too anything. Stop waving that intellect around. Let's crash. You should sort my mind out, not him. Mornings, eyes haggard, skinny, voice in my head. I want, 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 I want. Won't somebody turn down that screaming?
Yeah,
Got another?
sure.
This is a love poem. Come soft in the darkness of night, like a sea that is hushed with the whisper of waves. Come dark moonless oceans and billowing stars, drive out the lovelessness of sailing alone. Come as the hungry to a bag of grain, searing in the black silent hunger of cat's eyes. Come bring daisies for my hair, rolling clover by the point, where backseat lovers drop headlights, blindly grope through the clothing of guilt. Come roaring through tunnels, pull me through like a carriage, furnace fired with a prayer to the pulsating moon, and come like a boxer, knocked into laughter, punch drunk on the feel of a strong, solid heartbeat. Come, survive tidal waves, sail treacherous seas, paddle clear water streams, ride the current of rivers. Come, be my lover.
Yeah, great.
You another? Got one more.
Okay, come on.
This is a poem for the peace movement. We are white, black, all colours in between. We sing, dance, read poems, make badges, food, love. Our spectrum is never ending. It whirlpools in lakes, travels the tide over rocks and falls, swells into oceans where each small group meets. Our flag is all colours, all countries. We are all different. We are all individuals. We are all cells in a very large body. We are the people you don't see on television. We are the raped woman, the murdered child, the tortured man, the soulless factory worker on 9 to 5, the villages burned in war. We live, learn, grow, change, create. We raise our families so it's never going to end. We are not famous. We don't think anyone else is. We are the people. We just do what we have to. We are the people, the ones no one consults when they make decisions governing our lives. And we're visible now. We're loud. We'll take our chances, as we don't want to fight anymore. Yay!
Good, thank you. Off you go.
Imagine making love in a thunderstorm. Imagine thunder and lightning and rain as you kiss and sigh and sweat and moan. The wind calls out your names. You entwine yourselves in a cocoon of passion under a silver and velvet sky. The heavens are ablaze with fireworks as the rain caresses your skin and the earth shakes beneath you. Imagine making love in a thunderstorm. My name's Ross Clarke. I am currently working out of Brisbane, and I'd like to read a poem that, though it's fairly old for me, still expresses a lot of the things that I'm really writing about. It's called Found Poem, poem in which I find myself, and it really has the persona perhaps that I had in about 1968, 69 when I started to be a little bit active in things. So although the terminology is a bit dated, the beliefs are exactly the same. Found poem, poem in which I find myself. Let us praise long hair that you can comb with your fingers, shake in a dance. It is the last freedom. Let us always dress in jeans and grow our hair till it fits us. On the street tonight, I'll turn the collar of my school shirt up, but will not tuck my long hair in, no matter the cold, the winds that change, the storms that blow. I will let it all hang out and wear my only uniform, make my only pledge, the freedom of my head.
Right. Another one?
Another one.
Yeah.
This one's called The Gun Explains. And the gun is the gun shearer who's explaining the process. The shearing begins with blows. That's what we call each stroke, from the front and then back leg, on up one side towards the backbone, taking the belly wall so it peels back off the beast in one piece with the rest of the fleece. And you notice the animal is quite calm and still, and the shearer has the other hand firmly on it so it doesn't slip and hurt itself. And then comes what we call the long blow, from the neck right down the back to the tail, the longest blow on the sheep. And then he turns the beast around to shear the other side, what we call the whipping side, which he shears in short, fast strokes until it's all done and we have a single fleece. See? Again.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, far away.
Yeah.
My name's Jenny Boult. I live in Adelaide. The poems that I'll be reading come from my new book, Flight 39. The first poem is untitled. And in this poem, I'm assuming the persona of a much younger person. Dear Grandma, I hope you're feeling well. Mum told me about your heart attack. She said it saved your life. You should have been asleep when the roof collapsed on your bed. Dostoevsky has had kittens. Tolstoy is pregnant again. Dad says he really enjoys having the great men of literature giving birth all around him. Mum says he's waiting for another Shakespeare to go fishing with. As you know, the last 3 drowned. I think he uses them as bait. The chooks are good. Jean Rhys ate Charlotte Bronte's eggs, Gertrude Stein's broody, and Henry Handel Richardson's got a wing in plaster. Marge Piercy keeps on stirring up the dust. I have made a hospital for my dolls. They've all had heart attacks too, except for the ones that died when I dropped the weights on them. Mum complained a lot about the noise. I've bitten Dolly Parton's nose off and given her wig to Grace Jones. She was old anyway. Marianne Faithfull's chest got broken. When I tried to massage her heart, she has to have her temperature taken through her belly button now. I hope they can still take your temperature through your mouth. I hope you'll stay alive until you've read this. I'll just go and put my head in the oven. Your loving granddaughter, Sylvia. The second poem is called Dear Dusty Springfield. Dear Dusty Springfield, in my bopping days, I wanted to be like you. I couldn't be like Diana Dawes. She was too old. My mother said she was common, and she had a bosom. I couldn't be a Twiggy lookalike. She had no bosom at all, so I wanted to be like you, except that nothing I did would make my eyelashes stay on. I was a mod for a while, but I always liked you more than Helen Shapiro or Cilla Black or any of those girls. Then there was soul music and acid and feminism. I abandoned you. Remembered Janice, went esoteric, played Joan Armatrading. Oh, Dusty, I don't even know if you're still alive, but I've been playing your records again lately and I still want to look like you. I've bought a black eyeliner. I'm back in skirts. Lipstick's pale again this season. Dusty, it's taken me 30 years to peroxide my hair and wear it, and I still don't look like you. My brother said he saw you on the Kenny Everett show with pale eyes and blow-waved brown hair. Was it really you, Dusty Springfield? I remember you on Ready, Steady, Go, Dusty. The white shoes, the eyelashes. You don't have to say forever. I understand, Dusty. Times change. But I just had to tell you, Dusty Springfield, I always wanted to look like you.
I am Robert Clarke from Adelaide. I want to read In the Rainforest, Walking to Mount Bathongabel from my latest book called Walking to Bathongabel. Bathongabel is a mountain on the border of Queensland and New South Wales, easily accessible from the Lamington National Park in Queensland. We walked to it from Riley's guest house. The first 3 miles we went through dense rainforest. And just before reaching Mount Bathongabel, the rainforest disappears and is replaced by an open forest of Antarctic beeches, which came with the continent from Gondwana land millions of years ago. in the rainforest, walking to Mount Bathongabel, winding its python length through Gothic columns of the trees, the sunlight chinking through the ruined roof, high canopy of leaves, falling in whispered pages on the crunched-up floor beneath, where in the softening gloom things watch and scratch and munch and creak. The track we take leads on to Bathongabel. Now clouds come whitening down the gloom, and all is darker still. Pondering new lives, a lyrebird crossing the path ahead quickens her pensive step. The pitter peers and veers away. A whip is lifted, cracks like a rifle, and a hidden bird slips by as we keep on our way towards Bathongabel. Escaping from that shut-in world where nearness cramps the eye, a little world of bigness whose chief concern is now, we find we've come upon another, whose open limbs stretch back through time, a world of whiskered ancients, remnant Antarctic beaches, who pine for lost Gondwana land that guard Bathongabel. Memories, just memories by now, memories that wilt as visions fade, yet never fades the memory of that sound. And as the blue-green harmonies resonate and swell, the heart is back again along the track towards Bathongabel, Bathongabel, Bathongabel.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's good. Okay, when you're ready.
Okay, my name's Komninos, and I'm a performance poet from Melbourne, and I'd like to do a poem which started off as a one-syllable per line rhyming poem, developed into something a bit longer. Fa, ka, ba, stars, ya. Fa, ka, ba, stars, yeah, go far in a car, find a bar, get drunk, see stars, say yeah, fuck up bar stars, yeah, fuck up bar stars, go back along the track, have a stack, backtrack stack, cops come, you pack, cop flack about the stack, you say fact, take you down to cop shop, take you into top cop, bops around the cop shop, bops around the cop shop, the cop shop bop. Cop shop bop, the cop shop bop. Everybody's doing the cop shop bop. Ya fuck up bastard, cop.
Okay, next one.
Next piece is an autobiographical piece about where I live and where I was born and grew up. Richmond is a working class inner city suburb of Melbourne. It's seen the succession of waves of migration, different people who have come to Australia. My parents are of Greek origin and came in the late 40s, early 50s. I remember my childhood in the back streets of Richmond and the visions that leave a lasting impression, where I lived in a fish shop with my mother and father, and the chips and the grease and the smell and the batter and the stench from the garbage and the thousands of flies that would gather to feast on the shop's throwaways in the lane out the back where we kids used to play. And from our 10 by 12 playground built over the kitchen, we could see all the tin rooftops of Richmond, and Polaco would flash in bright red off and on. The stars, the moon, and the flashing neon, and the chimneys and smokestacks that were nearby was the sight you could see as you looked to the sky. And the trees you could see, you could count on one hand, and the birds must have flown off to some other land. I remember the fish that would come by the truckload, and the cats in the lane, how they'd feast on the fish bones, and the scales of the fishes, how they'd fly like confetti, and my dad who'd be covered from his head to his toes, and his arms that would glisten, just like the fishes he was cleaning and gutting and cutting the heads off. And the pubs that stank of beer and of piss, and the drunks that would stagger and fall out at 6, up the hill they'd swagger to get some chips, or a cray if they had a win on the races, or some prawns or oysters to take to the missus, or some bread and butter soaked in Worcestershire sauce to sober them up before their main course. And my dad, who left Greece when he was 15 with his hope his ambitions, and a bag full of dreams, but spent the rest of his life as a slave to a stove, till his dreams were all greasy and his hope had all gone. And at times he got mad and punched the shit out of drunks. We didn't know why, but we're sure glad it wasn't us. And my mum, who'd pace up and down to the kitchen, taking orders and trays of roasters and boilers and flake and Cuda and brim and snapper, to the window to attract the eyes of the buyers. And she carried the burden of my father's bad temper when the shop wasn't doing what it should have, or he was worried about the price of potatoes. And her nerves were internal, but her anger was showing, and her legs would swell up from all of that walking. And I often saw her in some corner crying in the fish shop in Richmond.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
My name is Rory Harris. I was right in residence at Woodville High in 1981. Here's a poem. 10 ways to break into a prison. 1. No freedom. Acknowledge the fact. You who have not committed a crime. You who will not commit a crime. You deserve to be outside the law and inside of justice. 2. Get a grant, walk in the front door and teach poetry. 3. Do the same as 2, but without a grant. 4. When asked why you are trying to break in, be vague. Quote Tom Robbins, we all have to eat shit, regardless of taste. 4A. Destroyed the prison by any means possible. 4 didn't count. 5. Tell them you have escaped and have come back to give yourself up. 6. If they don't believe you, do not commit a crime. Go home and think more carefully. 7. Diet. Squeeze into the gaps in the walls. Eat and place wedges. 8. Drink vast quantities of beer and piss for long periods of time onto the mortar, which connects stone to stone. 9. Consider waiting for the walls to tumble. Blow the silk notes of jazz. 10. Know someone who is inside. Visit on Sundays. Always get to pass in. Always get to pass out. 10A. Do not become a warder. Building a motorbike from the ground up. The children go into each other on the living room floor in a house built around a mother worn thin like rope. Motorbike magazines, more a part of him than her, hold the house together like a staple. And the parts of the dream that he's building exist only to him, stand or fall or rust in a shed in the yard. He's been building the bike for years, like a marriage built from the ground up. His children survive, a muffler within them.
Yeah.
Over?
Yeah, sure.
We gather our emotions. We gather our emotions like coat collars against rain. Recall our trophied histories, teacher and student. Faces connected to bodies drawn with grief. I've come to accept the tears, not always here, but in moments of breathing frailness, like against classroom windows, where support came unhinged and glass fell out like fountain spray and slipped through our bodies unrepaired. We left ourselves and each other, passed through and out of. Now, our eyes blink acknowledgement as we walk beyond the scattered wreaths into a church where the body of a girl dressed as a Greek bride waits to be buried.
Well, all right, my name is John Bray. I'm 73 years old, retired judge, classical scholar. This poem's called Dilemma. I have inherited 8 chairs, straight back Victorian affairs, leather and stuffed with equine hairs, plucked from the manes of Arab mares. In days of bustle, chignons, squares, Israeli bought the Suez chairs, ladies in carriages and pairs drove to inspect the plates and wares. My grandmother purchased these chairs. Now they are slashed with rents and tears, the springs stick out like Gorgon's hairs. They are turned into risks and snares to trap the sitters' derrieres and hurl them groundwards unawares. The cost to make needful repairs with the upholsterer declares suffice to pave the golden stairs, then last for 60 years, he swears. Should I submit, what poet cares to paste good money on old chairs to pad the asses of his heirs? These are some adaptations from the Greek anthology. I call this one The Paradox of Marriage. The author's anonymous. Not to be married is not to be afflicted. Everyone knows this, yet most become addicted. This is an epitaph, also anonymous. A little food, a little drink, and much ill health, I was by fate allotted. After a tedious stretch of time, at length I died, and you can all get knotted. In a more elevated vein, this is from a poet called Asclepiades, a very good poet. Sweet as the snow, the heat-cracked lips, sweet the spring breeze, the storm-tossed ships. Sweetest of all when one cloak covers, on a summer night, a pair of lovers. This is another one, also anonymous. I've called it after long partings. When your grape was green, you denied me. When your grape was ripe, you despised me. Can I have a nibble at the old sultan? The winter solstice. The languid sun, his summer pride put by, trails his pale track across the winter sky. Daily more distant and more brief his course, feeble his rays and spent his vital force. Winter's marauders crowd behind his edge, like Cossacks hovering near Napoleon's sledge. Guerrillas of the frost waiting for night to blast his store chest, black with shrivelling light. While huddled down beneath the blanket earth, seed corn and snake dream of the world's rebirth. Yet lacking power to thaw, to warm, to burn, still as he sinks, he says, I shall return.
Larry Buttrose from Sydney. One day, walking home from work, I saw her on the street, dressed like an office girl. But there was so much more to her than just that dress. She was beautiful. She drifted on a cloud, unlike the woman waiting home for me. My woman, my married woman. My wife is a married woman. I followed her in my car. I watched her in a bar. I craved her. Ooh, that dress. Then I saw the ring. I saw the ring. Oh no, another married woman. Married woman. Another married woman. And I am a married man. And a couple which unfortunately I can't recite.
Can you read them a bit louder?
Yep. The angel in your clothes. So you say you want to go out to a swinging beatnik party, dress up in beret and tights. You should have been in Paris. You should have been in pictures. Passing the tower in your daddy's MG. Pointing out the Louvre to a crew-cut American cousin. You're all Zelda, all black and white checks, a switchboard of crazy red curls. Can't sit still long enough to read your Kerouac. Buddy Greco at a left bank club. So much more your style. Your skin is soft as Peter, Paul and Mary. You have them kill our candle in every cafe corner. We live this out on sidewalks, beneath the slow swing of girders overhead, all on a thin and aching thread. Oh, there's this angel in your clothes, there's this goddess, there's this rose. There's a devil in your swinging hips, Africa in your finger clicks. Just bray me with your trumpet. Just blow me with your horn. Just bop me and bop me. Yeah, bop me. And I'll come home.
One more?
One more. Happy days. At one end of the avenue of November the 11th, there's Le Parc Démocratique de Goff. I'll start again. Happy days. At one end of the avenue of November the 11th, there's Le Parc Démocratique de Goff. Lush grass and a lofty granite, gas barbies, frisbee quadrangle, and speaker's corner. At the other end, Boyce Place, bounded tight by the Boulevard Langley Virginia and Pine Gap Close. Down the avenue, there's Lynch's Alley, Fraser's Way, the John Kerr Arms, the Grasby Emporium, the Bureau de Change Kemlani, Cairns Bulk Food, the RFX Connor Investment Service, branches right and left, and the Patrick White Amusement Complex, showing that light lunch farce, the role of the press. The avenue of November the 11th is popular after 5. The kids with Big Macs with local Aussie... Sorry. Damn it. Shall I start again?
That's all right.
I'll take it from the top because I fucked up a couple of lines. I'm not very good at actually reading. I'm better at reciting. Happy days. At one end of the avenue of November the 11th, there's Le Parc Démocratique de Goff. Lush grass and a lofty granite, gas barbies, frisbee quadrangle, and a speaker's corner. At the other end, Boyce Place, bounded tight by the Boulevard Langley Virginia and Pine Gap Close. Down the avenue, see Lynch's Alley, Fraser's Way, the John Kerr Arms, the Grasby Emporium, the Bureau de Change Kemlani, Cairns Bulk Food, the RFX Connor Investment Service, branches right and left, and the Patrick White Amusement Complex, showing that light lunch farce, the role of the press. The avenue of November the 11th is popular after 5. The kids with Big Macs with local Aussie burger shaped names, The Rock and The Reef, will marvel at the history of it all, while Mum and Dad again relate just where they were on the day and their spontaneous direct action at the news. The family will cross Aussie 2 Parade near Bond and Murdoch, grab a Coke from a stand down on the Avenue of the Republic, then hurry home to the network and Lotto News Quiz, to the electric blue delusions of the metal bird that chatters incessantly, pathologically, that hovers directly overhead.
Myron Lysenko from Melbourne. Here's one called Rockstar. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a pop star. I wanted to be a singer in a rock and roll band. I used to roll with my tranny in bed, turning into a rock star. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to be your lover, baby. I want to be your man. Love me tender, love me true. I used to sing when I woke up. I used to sing in the shower where the acoustics were great and the capacity audience of tiles would jump up and down screaming for an encore. And then, when I was 15, my voice began to break and I was told, don't shout and don't sing and don't strain your voice. But I didn't listen. With my high voice, rocking to my tranny and singing into a biro. And my voice broke, and it broke badly, and I kept on singing, and it's never repaired, but still I kept on singing with my high crack, low crack, high do, high D, crook voice. But I wanted to be a rock star, so I tried writing lyrics for rock songs, which turned me on to poetry. So here I am today, singing poetry into the canon, still waiting for the rock world to discover me. And this one's called In or Out. Where is she? She hasn't come in. She out. It's Sunday and I'm in. I might go out. It's in to go out. I could go out and be in it. I could go out and be in. in and out of my mind, day in and day out. I could stay in and get out of it. Many people who are in are out of it in an in way. Out there in here out. She's out. She may come in. She won't come in if I'm out, so I'm going to stay in and get out of it. Or I might go out and be out of it. At the moment, I'm in. I'll be in for a while, at least until I go out. Out there with the in crowd. Out of it and very, very in.
Good one. Good one.
Sorry.
Tom Grant. Disobedience. Smacks for being a naughty boy. Disobedience. Smacks with the ruler for being a bad boy. Disobedience. Stand in the corner with a dunce's cap on for being an answer back boy. Disobedience. Smacks with the cane or strap for being a really bad boy. Disobedience. Thrashed with the cane for being a disgusting, bestial boy. Disobedience. Thrashed then expelled for being a really disgusting, bad, bestial boy. Disobedience. Sacked from work for being caught masturbating boy, beast. Disobedience. Borstal for being a violent boy, beast. Disobedience. No work and no dole for being a ne'er-do-well man. Disobedience. Jail for being a violent man. Disobedience. More jail for being a thief, man, animal. Disobedience. More jail for being a violent thief, man, animal. Disobedience. Wandering the streets, a drunk animal, layabout man. Disobedience. Lunatic asylums for being a violent animal, drunk, vagrant man. Disobedience. Mental institutions and electric shock treatment for being a visionary man. Disobedience. No place for being a natural beast. Disobedience. No place for being a talking animal. Disobedience. Poetry! Disobedience. Poetry! Disobedience. Poetry! Second one's called Not More Tomorrows of This. Thanks, gang. Not more tomorrows of this, and you've made the big time. H doing 15 with a brick, and you become an animal with a number, where the weak become hawks and the strong go insane. And you're swinging a 25-pound hammer till it becomes partier, making big ones into little ones, and making little ones into smaller ones. And your woman's lashed on you and stopped writing, and you heard she's living with a hoon in Sydney, and you don't know what's happened to your kids. And the screws are overhead walking the cage, hurling obscenities down at you. And at first, you're screaming back. Till you learn, use, don't abuse. Breaking 8 hours a day, day in, day out, year in, year out. And the sun eats your head in summer. And there ain't no breeze in a concrete and bluestone square. And you had to ask permission to break off to get a drink of water, and they usually said no. And then winter's fingers would grab you tight and hold you cold, and the rain pissed in on you, and the food was crap. And your once-a-month visit from your mother, 'cause she's the only one who came, for 20 minutes behind steel and wire and glass plate, where you spoke by phone, was refused 'cause you was a risk, a mad animal man. And all your privileges, like your backer, was taken away 'cause you'd contrived some trivial rule. And at night in your 8x4 maximum security cell, with the lights on all the time, suddenly your Peter door had slammed open, and in had run 5 or 6 security. Yeah, 5 or 6 of them, and kicked the living salt case out of you. And they'd give it to you just for sport. And if you fronted sick parade next day, hardly able to walk, you was charged with malingering. Or they'd throw buckets of water over you in the winter, then charge you for urinating on government property. Or hold you down, and after giving you another bashing, shit all over your face, then call you shithead for a week or two, as the mood took 'em. They even nicked a few. Suicide, of course. Yes, doing Zen, 24 hours a day. Day in, day out, year in, year out. And the bell rings, and you don't know what round it is. And you're in the resin box, fighting from instinct, looking for the towel. But there ain't no second in your corner to throw it in for you. No referee to declare a TKO. And you just keep on punching, thinking of God or love, or the suffering Christ and death, and your kids in welfare institutions being trained for this. Faces come and faces go, but you stay breaking. Not more tomorrows of this. Todays are hard enough. Thank you.
Kevin Brophy from Melbourne. For Baudelaire. We should always be drunk. We need to be drunk. We're failing. If we're not so drunk, we can lose the 5 days between a weekend. We must be so drunk we forget the limited number of beers, the limited number of beds and women and men, the limited number of hangovers there are for each of us in one lifetime. We must get drunk without tiring. But drunk on what? On beer, on football, on music, on courage and virtue, on poetry, on what you please, as long as you're there with me, in the ditch, outside the palace, belly up, with the stars in our eyes, at the end of everything, wondering what time it is. And the trams and the smoke and the trains and the clocks will tell us what time it is. It's time to get drunk. This one's called Why, and Why. Why do police choose blue? Why are two eyes the same colour? Why do souvlakis travel only by taxi? And why can't a royal wave stop the tide? Why don't souvlakis drive Volkswagens? Why does a dog choose a telephone pole? And why don't roast chickens fly into my mouth? And why don't souvlakis choose telephone poles? Why do my toenails grow when my ears don't? Why don't Volkswagens join gherkins in jars? Why am I not as magnificent as I think I am? Why don't wealthy people die of embarrassment? And why hasn't anyone weighed and measured a thought? And why don't we split our sides laughing every morning? And why isn't there an answer to every question? And why do so many questions have so many different answers? Thank you. Move on!
I'm John Scott, and I'm living in Canberra at the moment, and I thought it would be nice to read a couple of poems about Canberra, set in Canberra. The first of these is a poem called Pride of Erin. It's from a sequence of poems called After the Dance, in which certain aspects of the movement of the dance are taken over in the poem itself. This one's called Pride of Erin. It's about a Canberra suburb by the name of Ainslie. One of the interesting things about Ainslie is it's a terribly dog-ridden suburb, and what happens basically is that as the sun gets very low in the sky, you'll hear a dog suddenly go off with a very explosive woof, and then it'll be taken up by another dog a couple of blocks away, and then it'll slowly move its way right way around the suburb of Ainslie. In fact, so many dogs are there, they'll say that the locals do call it dog's lead, and I refer to this barking procedure as the domino theory of barking. Around about the same time as the dogs start off with the barking, young packs of schoolgirls start roaming the streets of Ainslie, and this is a poem about them. Pride of Erin. The public telephone is a cage for the exhibition of Chrissy. She comes from science to the shop, saunters with her friends through a suburb of dogs, keeping ahead of evening, just beating it inside. Smoke from the slow combustion heaters. A sun low in the sky, giving lamplight and no warmth. A dying star and the domino theory of barking when light starts to fail. She has trouble with the door, with instructions. Is afraid of losing her coin. Doesn't have another one on her right now. Is afraid of not at home. Might be round at Greg's. And outside, Sharon, Cheryl and Debbie are wearing duffel coats in range. She is a carrier of nomadic truth, wishes commitment, knows of energies deep within her under pressure that she squanders on choir or keeping things clean. No one guesses them. They are efforts of will. Soldiers win medals with them. She watches the duffel coats picking at dusk, watches the way teenage girls jostle and shift, are non-committal like baboons. Can't stop herself being like this most times. Finds herself doing it. Wonders if noticing things is the essence of growing old, and that as we pass some midpoint, they fall away again, eventually back to nothing. With difficulty, she comes from the booth into what is left of today, makes her turn, watches her friends move on. In the darkness, they seem to float, like objects displacing their own weight in water. And the second one, which is different from that, another dance, it's called polka because it's about a hectic dance. In fact, the sort of hectic dance which relates to a dog I saw in another Canberra park, Glebe Park. Saw a man there and this dog leapt furiously. But good Lord, it'd be dreadful to be stuck with a dog like that, and if you wanted to get rid of it, how would you actually sell it? But at the time I was looking through classified advertisements at the Palm Safer for a house to rent, and I thought, what if you applied the hype of real estate to selling a leaping dog? So this was the result. Polka. But the park was in trouble long before the man and his dog arrived. Summer had brought its permanent cushion of drunkards to the benches, and under the knife-wounded tree trunks, picnics flourished like bird baths. The dog was excited. It bounced. It leapt through the hysterical hoops of command. People aren't fond of leaping dogs and advertise them in the paper as being with children. I first learned to translate classified advertisements when looking for a house to rent, that sunny means a Sahara treelessness, that students okay means contaminated. Once I nearly inspected a house described as unusual. Beneath faraway trees, loosely bandaged with newspaper, the man seemed very small, almost the ideal first home. His dog still testing some distant trampoline. Olympian. Suit conversationalist. Loves height. How's that?
Bravo, that's good. Thanks very much. Yeah, that'll do it perfectly. I'm ready.
I'm Kate Llewellyn, and I live in Sydney. This poem's called Finished. There'll be no more lying on your shoulder, love, or listening for your car. There'll be no more drinking on the veranda, love, or eating roasted veal. There'll be no more my legs around your leg, love, or howling at the moon. There'll be no more hits across my mouth, love, and crawling on the floor. There'll be no more smoking, listening to you curse, love, or smiling, drinking more. There'll be no more crying because you rage, love, or dancing up your drive. There's no more love, love. Cut it out, Richard.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
You ready?
Yeah.
My name's Fleur Adcock. I'm half New Zealander and half British, perhaps. I was born in New Zealand. I went to England at the age of 5. I went back to New Zealand at the age of 13 and became thoroughly confused about my identity and not where I wanted to live, but what I was in the places that I did live in. So I wrote this poem to my sister, who'd had a slightly different experience. She's a novelist, now lives in Wellington, where she has settled somewhat reluctantly. And I wrote this as a letter from London to her. It's called To Marilyn from London. It refers to one of her 4 daughters, Sarah, who did the classic New Zealand thing of going abroad, living in England and Europe for a few years, going back and following the same path as her parents, as my parents, as a number of generations of New Zealanders. To Marilyn from London. You did London early at 19. The basement room, the geriatric nursing, cinema queues, modish fall-apart dresses, and marriage at Stoke Newington Registry Office, spring 1955, on the rebound. Marrying was what we did in those days, and soon enough you were back in Wellington with your eyeshadow and your Edith Piaf records, buying kitchen furniture on hire purchase and writing novels when the babies were asleep. Somehow you're still there, I'm here, and now Sarah arrives. Baby-faced like you then, second of your 4 blonde Christmas tree fairies, 19, competent, with her 1 suitcase and her 2 passports. It begins again. And here's a rather nasty little poem about men. I've written several nasty little poems about men, but this is about a particular category of men, the mad ones. It's called Mad Men. Odd how the seemingly maddest of men, sheer loonies, the classically paranoid, violently possessive about their secrets, whispered after from corners, terrified of poison in their coffee, driven frantic, whether for or against him, by discussion of God, peculiar to say the least about their mothers, return to their gentle senses in bed. Suddenly straightforward, they perform with routine confidence, neither afraid that their partner will turn and bite their balls off, nor groping under the pillow for a razor blade. Eccentric only in their conversation, which rambles on about the meaning of a word they used in an argument in 1969, they leave their women grateful, relieved, and bored.
Jan Owen. I'll read 2 poems, the first one from a section called Insectary, with the title Orthosmitia Rayi. Gnats in clouds above the river's sheen loop in and out the ceaseless maze they are, being both particles of light and waves of net, thought's tiny juggling feet. And more, the whine of a new idea at the bright meniscus of mind. On such an afternoon, Heisenberg might have come to formulate his delta x by delta p is equal to or greater than Planck's constant over 2 pi. Uncertainly I pin down neither net nor thought, but strain at this paradigm for a poem. Over the gnats and me, marshmallow cumulus float by. Far-off thought balloons, to us, blank as eternity. This next poem is a childhood memory from the 50s. Ice-O. Although we loved the gentle horse whose nose of worn-out velvet nudged us for ryegrass, Antarctica come to the suburbs was what drew us through the heat. We trotted by its slow and straining bulk, or swung on the creaking cart. Only the Iceman galloped. Through each gate, bent double over the Hessian-covered block, it weighed him down the side, around the back, and in with never a knock, boots puddling mud over lino, till clunked on the chest edge to teeter and thud. Hot foot on the road would wait, breathing the wet sack smell, the oats, the sweet sour yellow dung, force-feeding weeds to horse to earn our chunks of slithery dripping ice. Now clear off, kids, and mind the bleeding wheels. So perched on the fence, we kicked our heels, watching the cart lurch up to Duthie Street. Johnny always waved as it turned right, and into just a faint clip-clop applause, while fast as we could suck or slurp, our ice was licked off at the corners by the sun, or sent in shivery runnels down our skin, trickling chocolate drops across the dirt. And when we held the chips up glistening bright, greyly among the frozen bubble swarms, there went a crooked mile between the palms to question mark the light. Beyond us, time hung round on the wall. At every touch was home. Green streets, my brother's laugh, a sunny day, only half grasped, forever melting away.
Could you speak up more than that?
Right. I'm Barbara Giles, and I'll read you a poem called In the Park, Looking. This is fairly typical of a lot that I write because I write from my age viewpoint, sometimes from a viewpoint people don't expect, as in this. In the park, looking. I'm not too old to like the look of a man, the strong legs, that bright, dark-browed glance. There's a nose that I like, admiring, blank-faced. It's good to see a fine man. If you should notice, if you see me at all, old women are almost invisible. You'll think I'm reminded of someone, son, brother, or husband. Not that I look as a woman looks at a man who stirs her. And likely enough you'll be thinking, she has a look like my mother.
All right, we're on. Okay, well, we're talking to Vivian Hopkirk here, who's an exile from Mangrove Mountain, who's about to recite a poem called The Comet is Not Shy. The comet is not shy, death is not shy, nor the antelope the ton of fire. The nerve-actioned infant swaggers in like a dart. The gorgeous, shy, juice-minded boys broke like their fathers, who charmed the earth with their savage blushes. They were peat in the blazing epochs and burnt like men with butane eyes, with the muscle of pine root in their marrow and their slow, deadly hearts, heaving the hundredweight of blood like a cloud, arriving like a panther at the meaning of its jaws with the poise of a dancer, yet quake in the shadow of the mechanical dwarf. The astute imbecile, with his conferred structures, minced the brave men to his models, commanding tin pestles the hammer, the happened chieftains of the thunder's viscera employed by shadows cast down their eyes. Other small men with their mental dentures reduced to their stature by them who rustle the naive heroes. Their statutes are like fire sticks to ambushed lions brandished by men of straw. The sea obeys a bather with his dry orders. Time, magma in the eagle's nipple, stammers to the paunched clock. What can free a passion but itself, and need not gnaw its foot at the knee to perish free, or Caesarean truth with an axe? The strong brain in flight at the speeding seaman relinquishes an unerring chastity, punctured on the barb of ulterior law. Must, with its faggish cadence, the persisting spirit ignores, gauze springs to poison on the bone of a linnet. Love, bold and crashing as the sun, will be magnetic linguist and probe the blank anagrams, so that substance matters. Monogamous suffering suckle the exact eruption of peace. Enigma will geld the irrefutable contraption. Men made shy by imperious phrases will calmly confront them with bird and scale, balance them on the breasts of their wives. They will speak all languages, build their questions as they build the dams that esteem the weather, their proposals to the womb and the sky. The delicate muscle confide in the prodigy cresting at its tip. The wound will school an immemorial doctor as the snake flies. Living statesmen comprehend that blood rainbows in the strings of the fathomed harp.
That's good. What is poetry to you? What are you attempting to achieve?
Poetry is an invention for the future. It's a contribution of something entirely new, an arrival at a new nervous plexus of thought and continuity, arriving into a third thing, manifest by virtue of a collision of two moments which come together through the third of the presence of the poet, and it is a mental, entire, constructive and deliberate architectural contribution, and crucial.
Oh, that's it. Just pull back. Yeah.
My name's Diane Fahey, and I live in Adelaide. And the poem I'm going to read is called Dracula, inspired by those late-night movies one sees. Dracula. The coil and hiss of his cloak, streaming through high windows like a black curtain. The bed is curtained in white and billows like a sail. Apple flesh, just a tiny toothful, he tells himself. She falls limp on her pillow, matching its pale. He is left in the wind-filled, corniced room, satisfied but lonely.
What's poetry to you?
Well, it's kind of the centre of my life. I mean, obviously, people and relationships are the heart of life, but in terms of my creativity, that's right at the middle.
What does a poem try to do?
Well,
It's
such a multifaceted thing for me that it expresses any range of thought or feeling, and it's also a way of working through feelings and kind of integrating them, or at least confronting the fact that they can't be integrated at times.
Why do you think poetry is an unpopular art, isn't it? Why are people so shy? Why do they shy off it?
I think partly because it's so searching and challenging. I think it is about inner reality very much more than other kinds of writing, and inner processes.
Right.
Richard Kelly Tipping, Nearer by Far. Warning, these poems are addictive and may bite, naked as highways. They are nocturnal, polygamous, hunt with slow knives for fruit. Danger, these poems are sharp tongues that stick into nooks and may laugh at flat moments. They stick together like guns. Notice, these poems aren't modest half-moons. They light up and burn with a billion details, spreading paper as they walk. Last chance, these poems are dirty as the earth and as resilient. They may change nothing, proud as a waterfall, but stay alive to voices in the third new millennium. Pictures of feelings, angry as butterflies in glass jars. Beware, Australia, nearer by far.